Hey, what's up, guys? It's Will back once again for another Fight Card prediction. We're here for UFC Fight Night 181. The UFC head back to Vegas after their second stint at UFC Fight Island, which I'm a little bit gutted over with because I just loved the entire 5 weeks over there. I loved the cards that they put together. I loved the matchups, and I just really liked the whole Fight Island kind of idea, and I thought they did a great job with it. Culminated with the UFC 254 at the weekend, which was an awesome card, lots of great finishes, and we've seen the retirement of one of the greatest all time in Khabib Nurmagomedov with his very much dominating performance against the very always dangerous Justin Gaethje. So we're moving across here. We've got Uriah Hall against Anderson Silva is our main event of the week, and they're saying Anderson's saying this is going to be his last fight. So it'll be interesting to see if he sticks to that because I'm not 100% sure that he might, but we will see. Coming off, like I say, UFC 254, which was great. Really good betting throughout Fight Island for me, actually. I did really well. Had a lot of good dogs in that one there. And looking hopefully to kind of continue the trend with this one here. I just want to say a massive thank you. I asked for 254 likes last week and I got close to 300. So that's awesome. So let's see if we can try and keep over that 200 mark. So if you could give me a thumbs up, much appreciated. And if you could, please hit the sub button. I asked for 25 subs last week. I think I actually went back. I think I was like -3 for subs last week for some reasons. I don't know how that works out, but yeah, we've got another 100 or so to go before hitting 4,000. So let's see if we can hit that there. So this card to me, there's some fights I've looked into a lot more than others. There's some fights I just did not want to look into all that much. But I think it's a tough card to pull out underdogs this week, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of heavy favourites when you see the betting lines that there is, and I'm just trying to decipher which some of the dogs might be live and what may not. But we're going to get into it straight off the bat. We're going to go into the bantamweight division with a dog that I actually think is live, in Kevin Natividad against Miles Johns, I should say. So Miles Johns, we've seen a little bit of him. I can see you guys in the chat there. What's up, guys? VCR Repairman. What is up, everybody? I hope you're all doing well and profited over the weekend there. And we're moving into the last kind of stretch of the year, the last couple of months. So let's get it. So Miles John 1-1 in the UFC with a win over Cole Smith, which was very close. There was parts of that fight where he had his back taken for large portions, and really that's really the only kind of thing that really happened in that fight because Cole Smith didn't really offer all that much in the feet. He really just wanted to get to the back position and keep that position there. And he squeaked out a split decision. Could have went either way. I think probably they did give it the right guy in Miles Johns, who kind of went for it a little bit more. Lost his second fight to Mauro Bautista, who I think's a guy I'm really keeping an eye on. I'm looking forward to his next fight and looking forward to seeing what he's going to bring to the table next time out. But Miles Johns likes to kind of wrestle, grapple a little bit. He can do that. He slings a big right hand. He can throw a nice straight left jab. But I do worry about it once it kind of goes to the mid part of the fight. And I think that's where, when I look at this one here, I was watching Natividad this morning, and he was supposed to fight Brian Kelleher. That fight got pulled there. And, I mean, he's 9-1, and I think he's got a really good opportunity here. So I watched this fight without even looking at odds. And then as soon as I finished watching Natividad, I went and had a look at Miles Johns. And I don't want to say I'm not really impressed with him, if I'm being honest with you. I think he's very beatable, but I think he could win. He could scrape out a couple of fights, like you kind of like the Cole Smith one. Ones that are close, he might be able to kind of get it out a little bit. But Smith had nothing on the feet for him. Natividad's going to throw down a little bit here, and he's got some power in his hands. And if he lands on you, he can catch you. Shown to me that he's got some takedown defense. There's the Alvin Rivera fight, which was the one I was like, I think Miles Johns is going to try and get takedowns here. So I need to see a fight where he can show me kind of takedown defense. And he showed me in that fight predominantly that he can kind of stop takedowns. The Perez fight, which was 2 fights ago, stopped a couple of good opportunities that Perez had there. A little bit of a slow starter, a little bit hittable with low kicks, which I've seen. But once he starts to get into his flow and his boxing and his speed starts to come through, he's very crisp with his strike and he's got the power there. Miles Jones, in my opinion, is going to look to start getting takedowns. And if he doesn't get takedowns and he starts to gas a little bit, Natividad has showed to me that he can go 15 minutes solid, keep a good pace for those 15 minutes. And like I say, when I was looking at those odds, I see Natividad was plus 175, and I'm like, this to me, I do probably give Jones the slight advantage, but maybe I cap him like a minus 120, minus 125, not the odds he was at. And I thought that the comeback in Natividad was like plus 120, plus 125, so plus 175 in my opinion, I think it's a good bet, and I made that bet. I went in and I put 1.5 on him, 150 on him, and hopefully he can kind of come through in that one. I think it could be a bit of a struggle to start off with, but I think once he starts to get in there and starts to throw down, gets his technique, gets his crispness going, I think that he beats Miles Jones. So I'm going to take him in a very close decision, though. I think that it could be very, very close in that one. Cortney Casey against Priscila Cachoeira. Again, went into this one, watched one fight at Priscila and couldn't really go much further than that, unfortunately. And Cortney Casey, I've kind of watched enough to know what she's kind of like here. So Cachoeira is very, very hittable. She's coming off a win, a big win in her UFC, to keep her around in the UFC, because she'd been a couple of fights there. She kind of got beaten up a little bit. Kind of showed a lot of heart, which she's obviously got in abundance there, but she's not the greatest fighter. And Cortney Casey is one of these fighters that just really wins one, lose ones, win ones, lose ones. She kind of goes vice versa on wins and losses, and she's coming off a loss there to Gillian Robertson, where she got choked out with a rear naked choke after really not being able to kind of stay on the feet against Gillian Robertson. And Gillian Robertson's just a master at getting the fights to the ground and working from there and finding a submission. She does that. And the last one was Mara Romero Barella, which is not really saying much. And Barella really stuck her arm in there too long and got armbarred. So on the feet, like, Casey is long, and she should be able to hit Cachoeira pretty easily. I think on the ground, if it was to go there, she'd maybe have an advantage there. I think that she just has to really stop the flow of Cachoeira coming forward, because she's very, very aggressive. And she's obviously got that power. We've seen that in the Shane Dobson knockout. But how much is that really going to transcend? I don't know. So I'm going to go Cortney Casey via decision in that one there. I think that Cachoeira is going to absorb a lot of strikes in that fight, but I'll take Casey there. Dustin Jacoby against Justin Ledet. You've got the boxer against the kickboxer. I like Dustin Jacoby. I think that he's a really solid fighter. Coming off the Dana White Contender Series, I thought it was a really good performance there. Ty Flores, I think he was against it. I remember I put him in a parlay, and that parlay cashed that night. Like I say, Justin Ledet, to me, he's only really got hands, and he's not got a hell of a lot else. He shows a little bit of toughness here and there. Technique's good with his boxing, I will say that, but I can see Jacoby just having more tools with the hands. I can see him having more tools with the low kicks, and he's just an overall far better, more fluid striker. Throws at different angles, throws at different speeds as well, where Ledet's really long with the jab, and really doesn't kind of have much else behind that. Can throw a couple of combination shots, maybe go to the body now and again, but I just think that Dustin Jacoby, in my opinion, is just a far more serviceable striker in this fight. So I find it hard to really go and kind of back Justin Ledet here. I'm just not sure how you could really see how that kind of plays out. But I mean, Jacoby's been around a long time. I think it's his second UFC stint. Went through kickboxing, fought some big guys in the kickboxing world there, Alex Pereira and so on. So yeah, Dustin Jacoby's going to be my pick there. I think he picks apart Justin Ledet, can get a stoppage. Ultimately, I've got him via decision. I think low kicks could really stifle Justin Ledet here. So yeah, Cole Williams against Jason Witt. This is two guys that just don't deserve, just do not. They don't deserve to be in the UFC. So yeah, I don't know. When I look at Jason Witt, I think he's very hittable. I don't think he's got the best chin. You've seen that in the Sato caught him with a shot. I've actually seen him in the regionals get hit with that same shot. Kind of lowers his head, gets hit with a big shot, and gets put down. He's a wrestler, has some heavy kind of leg kicks, but something that he doesn't overly use. And he's just not consistent with his striking. You don't know what's coming. I think he's a little bit slow. Big power double leg though, and he's very, very strong, and will look to kind of push the fight to the ground there and use his kind of weight and just his kind of heaviness on the ground there. But he doesn't really have much else kind of apart from that, in my opinion. I don't think he's got a hell of a lot on the bottom. I think his top control, he's got a little bit of it there, but I think you can push him off if you can work the kind of angles and get back to your hip and kip up or whatever. But he probably will try and take this fight to the ground and look for submissions. When you look at Cole Williams, I mean, 35 years old, came in against Claudio Silva, probably was a couple of years. He should have probably maybe been in the UFC a couple of years ago. But yeah, like, I think this is just a bad fight. Two guys that don't deserve really to be in the UFC, which is kind of my main thing, even just watching these guys. If you manage to go on and Witt, I think he was around about -110 in the middle of last week, then I think that's not a bad line. He's now -140, which I still don't think is a bad line, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think Williams can stop a takedown in this one here. So I think if Witt was to take him to the ground and be heavy in there, he wins majority of the fight. But he's okay. Well-rounded, a wee bit well-rounded, but nothing really jumps out to me. But he's very, very slow, and he's very, very predictable. You can see strikes coming a mile off. Like I say, this was a fight I watched 2 of each, and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to watch any more of these guys. I saw that Williams can get taken down. I saw that Witt can take people down, and I think that's on the feet. Like I say, as long as he doesn't come in with his guard down and his chin in the air, then he should be able to get takedowns here and win a decision. But I'm not super confident or comfortable picking many people in that fight, if I'm being honest with you. So I'll take Cole Williams. Like I say, guys, I'm struggling to find underdogs in this card here. I must admit, I was going through that, and Natividad really jumped out to me, but there's not much else. Maybe we're going to the main card, there is a little bit more there. So Adrian Yanis against Victor Rodriguez. I like Adrian Yanis a lot. I think he will knock out Victor Rodriguez. From what I've seen from Rodriguez, I think he fights out the Alaskan fight scene, which is not a good scene to come from. There's like the African fight scene, which is not great. And there's a couple other kind of fight scenes which are a little bit questionable. Coming from Alaska is not desirable, to say the least. We've seen that, was it Medic that was on the Dana White Contender Series? He looks a bit of a find. I think he could be a good fighter. He came from that kind of fight region. But what I've seen him there, I've seen him beat up in some cans. I've seen him dropped by a guy which wasn't great. I don't think that's something that's really good on your resume. Yanis, to me, 11-3. He's took his legs, lost to some good fighters. Mostly fighters that are in the UFC as well, like Miles Jones, I think, was one of those guys that he lost to back in the LFA. I like his power. I like his striking. I like his speed. I think he's very hard-nosed. I think he's really, really, really good with his striking. And what I've seen is Rodriguez is very hittable. So I'm going to take Adrian Yanis. And honestly, he's a guy that I could, all this max bet talk, he's a guy that I really like for that. But I won't be doing it. If I'm going to bet him, which I think he's like -300 here in the UK right now, I will probably parlay him up if I can find someone. If I got a parlay in this card, no, it's the card after actually. So, but he's -300. I think he's warranted at that number. I don't really like what I see from Rodriguez, so I'm going to take Adrian Yanis via knockout in the first 2 rounds. Chris Greutzmacher against Alexander Hernandez is your main fight at the prelims here, and boy oh boy did I really want to pick Chris Greutzmacher in this fight here. And I still kind of think he is a bit of a live fighter in this one, because I'm not sold on Alexander Hernandez in the slightest. I'm not. I've never really have been. I think the win over Beneil Dariush, it looks amazing on your record, especially the way he did it with that knockout. But I don't think he was impressive against Olivier Aubin-Mercier. I bet him as an underdog there. He came through. I bet against him against Donald Cerrone. He was talking mad shit that fight week and just was too overconfident and got his ass beat. He really got his ass beat. I don't think he beat Trinaldo. I really don't think. If that fight's in a different state, not in his hometown, then I don't think he wins that fight. And then Drew Dober, he just couldn't take the power shots and really kind of quit in that fight. So I'm not sold on him at all. But when I look at Greutzmacher, he's been out, I want to say he's been out a couple of years now, hasn't he? So after that big win over Joe Lozon, who was kind of on his way out. Very slow. He was unloading on Joe Lozon in that fight and really got a big finish there. Cocky knob. I completely agree, Ginge. Yeah. I mean, lost to Davy Ramos via submission, lost to Chas Skelly via submission. So they're decent guys, they're serviceable guys, that they've got a skill set there which can win them fights. Hernandez to me is obviously far younger, faster. I think he's got all the kind of physical gifts, but mentally, I don't know whether he's all there. I've seen that he's changed camp. He's went to a camp full time at Factory X, and like, to be fair, if you look at Factory X at the minute, they are one of the gyms at the minute that have got a lot of guys winning. Royval won, Jonathan Martinez won, so they've got a good group of guys coming out of that camp there. Very confident. He was over in Abu Dhabi, cornering Martinez, I think it was. So yeah, like I say, I don't know whether I should pick Greutzmacher here, because I think there is clear path to victory for Hernandez. I don't know whether it's just my dislike for him as a guy that's really trying to take over and try to fade him here, because I think skill for skill, I think he's got more than what Greutzmacher has. So I'm going to go Alexander Hernandez, even though I'm not a fan of Hernandez at all. I think he will be faded again. I think you will get good betting lines going forward on that guy, because I just don't think he's that great. But I like the fact he's went to a camp, a good camp, a thriving camp with other thriving fighters at the minute, and maybe that will make him more hungry, and maybe we will start to see his mentality change, and we'll start to see him flourish into a better fighter. But I'm going to pick him in this one here. I think he could get Chris Gutierrez out. I was looking at Greutzmacher. I was looking at where he was training, because I know he was an MMA lab guy way back in the day, and then there was a whole story of him getting kicked out of MMA lab. I don't know the story. Went to American Top Team, but he's not fought. When was the last time he fought? Was it 2018? Let me bring that up. April of 2018. So he's had 2.5 years off. So yeah, I'm going to pick Alexander Hernandez for the win. I just don't think this is his the spot where you can really fade him, in my opinion. So Hernandez via decision. Bobby Greene against Thiago Moises is up next. This was a fight, I believe, that was supposed to take place, and then it got cancelled. I'm thinking something else. I think I'm thinking of another fight there. Bobby Greene, to be fair, has looked great. 9 minutes, I'm kind of with you. Not many dogs I like in this card. I'm kind of like you at this point. 3-fight win streak. It's been a big 2020 for Bobby Greene. Wins over Clay Guida, Lando Venata, Alan Patrick, where I think his confidence, that was it. Thiago Moises against Jalen Turner. Ty, you're the man. Thanks for that. Yeah, he's got his confidence back, and he's an awkward guy to fight. He always has been. His striking's decent. He is very hittable. He is a guy you can push back against the cage a little bit, maybe control. But he's hard to get down. He's hard to kind of keep down. And Thiago Moises has really shown that he's not got a hell of a lot in the feet here. So you've got the more active fighter on there in King Bobby Greene. If I look at his stats here, and looking at stats, it can be a little bit kind of demeaning in some spots, and it doesn't really show the whole story of the fight. But he's been stopping takedowns, especially Patrick there, who is a guy that he took down a couple of times in that fight and completely kind of beat up in the feet. You look at the Lando Venata fight, Lando was completely hittable, but Bobby really changed it up there, got some takedowns. But that's something there that I don't think he can really do against someone like Thiago Moises. I think, to me, his chance to win this fight is to come out here and try and latch on to a guillotine, if he can do that. I mean, he got by, he was getting his ass beat actually by Michael Johnson, and then got that heel hook, the ankle lock in the second round there. That's how I think he wins this fight, if he can catch an opportunistic submission. I think the volume will be too much. I think just the how game that Bobby Greene is on his feet, just moving, cutting angles, and just having probably more of a pace to him, will win him this fight. I think the betting line's a little high. Someone said there Bobby Greene via decision. I don't think that's bad. Yeah, what's the odds? Bobby Greene minus 280. Yeah, I'm going to go Bobby Greene. I think that via decision is probably the way to go in that one there. So we'll go Bobby Greene via decision. Maurice Greene against Greg Hardy. I got Greg Hardy in this one here. Maurice Greene doesn't impress me in the slightest. But could he kind of show some of his kind of experience as a guy that's been around, been in kickboxing fights, been around the sport a little bit here? I think the UFC are doing a good job in. He can maybe give Greg Hardy a few problems with some kicks and so on, but I think this a fight Greg Hardy can actually look very good in. And I've been thinking about whether he stops the fight or he wins via decision. I'm kind of leaning on more Greg Hardy winning by decision. Like I said, I was super impressed, even though he got his ass kind of beat by Alexander Volkov. I think that's a fight to me that, at the point of his career, with only probably 7 fights at that point, that I think that it's a good bout to have. I mean, he got his ass beat pretty convincingly, but he stuck around, and it's a fight there that will look good in his record if he ever decides to kind of move forward. Beat De Castro, really kind of beat him with the jab, was faster, beat the kind of smaller guy at the division. The guy's an athletic freak, very long, can pop out a long jab, can be aggressive, but he's one of these fighters that's kind of learned to kind of sit back and use his strikes well. And when you look at Maurice Greene, I mean, he's coming off that win against Gian Villante, which was, I mean, Gian looked like he was having twins before that fight, gassed out after the first round, and then managed to get the choke with his back on the mat. A low percentage thing that he managed to keep there. So, yeah, I've got Greg Hardy here. I think that he kind of pieces him up for 15 minutes. I think he's got more of a pace to him. But if you're looking at overall probably better strikers, you're maybe looking at Maurice Greene as well. So, I don't know. I don't really think I want too much action in this fight here, but I'm going to pick Greg Hardy to kind of extend his win streak to 2. And I'm interested to see kind of where he goes and the more experience he garners in the matchups that they make. We'll see where he goes, but Greg Hardy via decision is something maybe, or over 1.5 rounds actually I think's not a bad bet to look at. So that's what I'll be having a little peek at. Kevin Holland against Makhmud Muradov. Now, these last 3 fights I think are great fights to finish the card, and there's opportunity for dog plays here in my opinion. I went into this one really wanting to like Muradov, and I've bet him in his 2 fights in the UFC via like straight up. In his first fight, and then his second fight I think it was via it was a round total I believe. And I really like what I see from Muradov here, but in a striker v striker battle, I think, to me, I edge Kevin Holland. And I really wanted to pick Muradov in this one here, but Kevin Holland is a really tough guy to face. He really kind of annoys me at points. I've bet him in the past. I've been sweating really bad with that. Holland sub, that could be a good kind of bet if you look at that. Kevin Holland's just hard to kind of beat across. If you're stuck in there 15 minutes, he seems to land more than you. He's usually longer. He's longer here. Bigger guy. He always kind of is in this division, but he's got a 6-inch reach advantage. He can use it very well. He fought very good against Joaquin Buckley on very short notice there. And Buckley was seen as a big explosive guy. He landed some shots on Kevin Holland, but Kevin Holland landed some really nice straight counters, put him on his ass. Then you look at the Darren Stewart fight there. I think that was I don't think he looked great in that fight. I thought his striking looked good in some points. His combinations looked very deadly. His takedown defense is something that I really do worry about, but I'm not going to worry about in this fight against Muradov because he's shown no signs of really doing that. He took down Trevor Smith kind of momentarily in his last fight, of course, but and then got the knockout in the third. But he's got some decent combination striking, lands at a high rate. But to me, just when I look at this, Kevin Holland, to me, he should boss this, especially if it stays on the feet. I think he's the more versatile striker, and I think he's got more strings to his bow with his... not that I don't think he'll take the fight to the ground, but I think if he was to go there, his submission grappling would be far above what Muradov is. I really like Muradov's, and I really like to go with him there, but I don't think I can, so I'm going to take Kevin Holland Someone in the chat there, I forgot your name, sorry, said sub. That might be a little thing you can have a sprinkle on. So yeah, I'm going to take, who am I going to take there? I'm going to take Kevin Holland. Actually, I just realised that I missed out Sean Strickland against Jack Marshman. Don't know how I missed that one, so I'm going to add this one in right now. Sean Strickland, back after 2 years off, had a really bad motorcycle accident where they thought that his fighting career might have been done there. I think he was at King's MMA at the point, and went in there and got hit by a blindsided driver, I think, pulling out in front of him while he was on a motorcycle. Now he's back, he's moving up to middleweight, which is interesting. He's against Jack Marshman, who I think is really on his last legs in the UFC here. Coming off that kind of really quick loss to Edmund Shabazian, with his win in there against John Phillips, which was very close to not going his way. I think it's win or bust here for Jack Marshman. He likes to come in there, use boxing, use feints, and try and get you to kind of pinch on some of his shots. But Sean Strickland, to me, has got one of the best jabs in the sport. If you look at his jabs throughout the fights that he's been in the UFC, really crisp, solid, clean jab, can mix it up with takedowns. Only really lost to like half decent fighters down at welterweight as well. Zaleski dos Santos and Usman's the two guys on his record in the UFC, with Ponzinibbio being in there as well. So he loses to good guys. I think he's better than what Jack Marshman is, but obviously the 2 year layoff, the accident, moving up a division, he's got some skills there. I think he's got more skills than what Jack Marshman has. So I'm going to take Sean Strickland there. Picking a lot of dogs, a lot of favourites here, which kind of sucks considering the last few weeks I've been targeting dogs really highly and hitting a good amount of them there. So this week just seems hard to find dogs that I like. Co-main event of the night, good fight here. Andre Fili against Bryce Mitchell. This is interesting to me, and this is a guy, like, when I look at this fight here, I'm thinking, right, this is a dog I can invest in my opinion, in Fili. I've always kind of seemed to pick against Bryce Mitchell. I did it with Charles Rosa, and in that fight he was so dominant with his grappling, with his submissions. I was surprised that Rosa was so tough to kind of come through some of those spots there. And the one thing that, like I said, I like the number on Andre Fili here, like plus 140, plus 150. If you got him at plus 150, that's a great number. I think he's maybe plus 140 here in the UK now, but that's still a number I can get behind. And he's not the easiest guy to take down either, which I like. Coming from Team Alpha Male, it's a wrestling kind of based camp up there in Sacramento, California. And like I say, he's shown that he's a gatekeeper, in my opinion, to that top 15. What surprised me actually was that Bryce Mitchell's actually ranked number 15th in the division. I did not know that until I looked at it, just coming through a couple of stats earlier on. I seen that, I was like, shit, he's actually ranked in the top 15 already. And I mean, he's another guy that kind of really only loses to good fighters. He lost to Sadiq Youssef, where he got the takedowns in that fight. He just could not stop the power striking of Sadiq Youssef. Should have, in my opinion, beat Michael Johnson. Wins over Miles Jury, who's really kind of flashed out. The UFC got rid of him. Shayman Moraes, a beautiful knockout in his hometown. Charles Jourdain took a big lick in that one there, got put in his backside, got back up, used takedowns, and that's something that might be in his back pocket that he could use there, but in my opinion he has to keep that long wide stance, kind of like the Shayman Moraes fight there. If you look at his stance, he was really wide and long with that stance. He has to do that there because Bryce Mitchell's going to look to grapple him. That's all we've really seen from Bryce Mitchell in his kind of UFC tenure, is that he is a really dominant grappler, gets you to the ground, he's hard to get off. But like I say, Fili's shown to me that he can stop takedowns. We have seen a few instances where he got submitted. Godofredo Pepe kind of just jumped in his shoulders, got him with a triangle choke there, which was nasty. Max Holloway, but that was like 5 years ago. So, I mean, he's came through there. Let me just bring up some of the stats I was looking at. When was the last time? I want to say Dennis Bermudez was the last time that he was taken down in a fight, if I believe so. Yeah. That was the last time he was taken down, was Dennis Bermudez a couple of years ago. Bryce Mitchell, to me, he's going to come out here and he's going to look for getting this fight to ground, because you've seen that he's very good down there. I mean, to handle a guy like Charles Rosa the way he did, who's a black belt himself, and he really shut out Charles Rosa in every spot of that fight, ground game included. The guy's really good with his ground game. His striking, I still think we need to see more of it. We've seen a little bit if you watch the Tyler Diamond fight, and you've seen a little bit with the Bobby Muffet fight. But the one thing that's kind of concerning to me here is the small cage. So we're not in the big cage anymore out there in Abu Dhabi. We're now back in the small cage, I believe, in Las Vegas, which will play into someone like Bryce Mitchell's hands. But if someone like Fili can keep that stance nice, long, wide, I think that he can stop takedowns. And if this stays on the feet, I think he's the better striker. I think he's got more variety of strikes. I think he's got more footworks. But I keep fading Bryce Mitchell, and he keeps making me look like a fool. And this could be another spot here where he solidifies himself as a top 15 guy, and he'll start to get himself bigger fights within the division. The guy's crazy, and he's been a breath of fresh air. I'm looking forward to seeing his camel shorts, which I think they're going to give him this week, so that's going to be interesting. I'm going to pick Andre Fili, though. I like him as a dog here. Whether I play him, I don't know whether I'm going to bet him in this spot here. I probably should if I'm picking dogs, because that's something I've did really well. If I'm picking dogs, you should really bet them. But the small cage and Bryce Mitchell's grapplings maybe put me off a little bit, but I'm going to take Andre Fili via decision. We're in to the main event here. And it's the last fight of Anderson Silva, supposedly what they're saying there. So, Uriah Hall against Anderson Silva, middleweight division. The guy that was they were saying it was going to be the kind of next Anderson Silva kind of type-esque fighter in Uriah Hall, who's really kind of fizzled out, showed you some spots where he can be exceptional, and then other times just mentally not there. Yeah, interesting fight here, because I came into this probably 2 hours ago and I was like, I'm gonna pick Anderson Silva. I'm gonna pick Anderson Silva, and I'm just like, why are you picking Anderson Silva? Is it because you don't particularly like Uriah Hall as a fighter, or I've met Uriah Hall and he's not the nicest guy in the world. I swear to God, he's not approachable. There was kids approached him when I was there, and he totally batted them off. Like, they were just asking for an autograph. They were asking for a little picture and so on after the fight when he was all fun and games, and he was just like, no, and kept on walking. Really did not pay the kids any attention. So I was like, oh, dude, that's brutal. It was 2 kids just asking for an autograph. So, and I actually seen him in Las Vegas as well. What fight was that at? Was it the John Jones fight? I think it was. And he was just so, there's no warmth to him at all compared to a lot of other guys you meet who are great, and he's just one that's not. And when you kind of watch his last few fights here, I mean, I bet him against Antonio Carlos Jr. last time because I thought that he could stop takedowns initially. He couldn't really stop him, but if he could survive, then he could hurt Carlos Jr., and that's what he did. And he was a plus 210 dog, cashed a really nice underdog bet there on him. Bevon Lewis, he was losing that fight. 3rd round, comes out there and stops him. If you look at his last few fights, he's losing the fight until he's winning it pretty much. These last 2, especially Jotko a little bit as well. The Paulo Costa one, actually thought he fought a really good fight there. Was fighting long, doubling up, tripling up on his jab, but he could not stop the pressure of Paulo Costa there. So yeah, when I look at this here, he could be a guy that gets so overawed with fighting someone like Anderson Silva, and especially him in his last fight here, where there's so much respect to him that he might not pull the trigger. And Anderson Silva's feints and movements could maybe put someone like Uriah Hall off. But I also think it might actually raise his game here, where he's not going to get an opportunity to fight a legend as big as Anderson Silva in a kind of spot like this ever again. So it's his one and only opportunity. And Anderson Silva's been on the way out for, 3, 4, 5 years at least. He's not looked good in a lot of fights. I mean, that win over Derek Brunson, I picked him to win that one. I actually bet him in that spot, and don't think he won that fight. So he's not won a fight, if we're looking at that, in my opinion, since Stephan Bonnar 2012. Obviously, he beat Nick Diaz, yeah. So 2015, but there is the win over Derek Brunson there, and his last 2 losses to the top guys in middleweight at Jared Cannonier and the champion Izzy Adesanya. So it's, in my opinion here, it's all on Uriah Hall, because if he stays there and gives this guy too much respect, then Anderson Silva could probably take rounds off him, in my opinion. If he comes out there as aggressive, gets in the face, is the fighter that's thrown first, changes up his attacks, then I think he could easily kind of win this fight. But I've got a sneaky suspicion this fight could go to decision and Anderson Silva could get the nod in it. And it would not surprise me if someone like Uriah Hall throw anything, it's a little bit lackadaisical, and just gives too much respect to Anderson Silva, then it wouldn't surprise me if he wins rounds. It really wouldn't, honestly. I think that he's got to come out here, be aggressive. I like the fact he's at Fortis MMA and he's shown that he's got a little bit more go to him once he's down a little bit. I like that, because we've seen him in spots there where he's been down and he maybe quit a little bit on himself. Now he's got a little bit of fight, and like he's got all the tools to hurt Anderson Silva here with his kicks, with his strikes, big powerful punching. It's hard to get. I really want Anderson Silva to win, if I'm being honest. I really want him to win, and I was going to pick him there. And I'm thinking, I've thought this recently with cards the last few months. It's like, I've maybe went against a few guys that it's fairly obvious they're going to win. And I'm kind of feeling that with Uriah Hall. But honestly, it would not surprise me if Anderson Silva makes it to decision and gets the win here. So the pick's going to be Uriah Hall. If I'm going to pick him to win, I think it's going to be via knockout or stoppage. But I'm 100% wanting Anderson Silva to win. I'm not betting this fight at all, but just a pick, as a prediction, I'm going to go with Uriah Hall. So guys, that's my picks there for UFC Fight Night 181 back at the Apex in Las Vegas. We're back for the card next week, which I've got some really decent fighters on it that I'm looking forward to watching. Jack Shore's on there, Alexander Romanov's on there. What's the main event for that card? Oh, Thiago Santos, Glover Teixeira. Dang, I'm going to start watching fights on that card tomorrow, and that's the main event I'm really looking forward to, because I love Glover Teixeira as a fighter, honestly, and then you cannot not like Thiago Santos as a fighter either. So to all you guys in the chat there, I've seen you masturbate, VCR Repairman, Ginge, I see all you guys. Really appreciate that there, for sticking around for the last half an hour or so. Let's try and get the video to 200 likes. If we can do that, it'd be much appreciated. To everybody that's given me a thumbs up, thank you very much. If there's any late thumbs up that could help me out, it'd be much appreciated. Until next week, guys, I will see you then. Enjoy the fight card this weekend, and if you're betting, I wish you all the very best for your bets. Take care and all the best. And the dog's fine, Ginge. Sleeping away. Take care.